Hey SAT test takers, Laura here with STP. Are you ready for the June SAT that's this weekend? If not, you've come to the right place because in this video, I'm going to give you 15 last minute tips so you can walk in there and take that test like a boss. First, if you're new to my channel or you are returning and you have yet to subscribe, I come out with free videos every week that gives you insider expert tips for how to ace the SAT. So smash that subscribe button and notification bell below to start to increase your own SAT score. All right, guys, in this video, these 15 tips I have for you are going to be divided into 3 different categories. First, I'm going to give you 5 general tips to reduce anxiety on test day. Then I'm going to give you 5 last-minute English tips. Then I'm going to give you 5 last-minute math tips. But before I get into all these amazing tips, this video is brought to you by Preply, the digital SAT prep app that's available in the App Store and in Google Play. I get it, guys. You don't always feel like doing a full-length 2-hour practice test. I know I don't have time for that. But if you want to keep prepping and practicing the SAT, even just a little bit each day to keep your finger on the pulse, Preply is the perfect way to go. You have over 1,000 unique questions in both English and math at the palm of your hand, and they really do feel just like College Board questions. You can actually target specific categories you're weaker in. So if you're weaker in logically completes the text questions, then go to that specific category under English and practice those exclusively. So Preply is basically designed so that you can prep how you want, when you want, whether it's 10 minutes a day or 30 minutes a day at home or in study hall at school. Preply is just convenient and it's a great way to get some extra prep in. So if you have a goal on this June SAT and you're worried you're not quite hitting it yet, download Preply today for that last minute push to get you over the finish line. I'm going to link it up here right now so you can go grab that. All right, guys, my first tip out of the 5 reducing anxiety tips that I have for you is to make sure you have a really good full-length practice test under your belt before you go into the real test. So to give you an analogy, I'm a golfer and I like to go to the driving range to practice. When I'm at the driving range, I hate leaving with the last shot being a terrible shot. So I like to at least finish things off with a really nice drive that is straight and far, and then I can pack up my clubs and head out. The same goes with practicing for the SAT. Psychologically, you want to feel really good going into the test, so you want to have a home run practice before you go in there. So if you do a practice and you're not hitting your goal and you're not happy with your performance, adjust, make whatever tweaks you need to make, and then take one more to boost your confidence before you go into the test. So tip number 2 is a really practical tip, but you'd be surprised how many people don't think of this stuff. Make sure you pick out your clothes the night before and just lay them out. So this is going to save you time in the morning, especially if you accidentally wake up late. And it just reduces anxiety because you already feel more in control and that you have things already planned out. My recommendation would be to dress in layers because you don't know if the testing room is going to be hot or it's going to be cold. And you want to be as comfortable as possible in there so that the only thing you're focusing on is the test itself. Tip number 3, make sure your device is fully charged the night before. So put your device on the charger. Guys, listen, there is nothing more anxiety provoking than getting to the test center and realizing that you have like 5% battery left. So please don't do that to yourself because you don't know if there's going to be an outlet near where you're sitting. And there's just too many unknowns that are going to stress you out. So just have a fully charged device. All right, my last minute tip number 4 is to make sure you get a full night's sleep. I would say that from the time you're watching this video up to the test, start to go to bed a little bit earlier and make sure that you're getting up nice and early to give yourself time to wake up and adjust. Please do not cram late night the night before the test. all it will do is drain your cognitive energy, and then you won't be able to fully focus on test day. All right, tip number 5 is to have a plan B so that you don't put so much pressure on yourself. So what I mean by this is this should not be a do or die testing situation. It's only the June test. So honestly, you have other attempts if you need them. You could take the August, the September, or even the October if you're applying early action or early decision. So I want you to walk into this test and tell yourself that you're going to do the best you can, but that you have other chances in case this doesn't work out. So don't stress it. Also, too, on that note, just as a reminder to all of you watching, schools only need to know about the scores that you send in. So if you take the test 4 or 5 times, you only have to send in to most schools the score that is your highest math and your highest English, and they don't even need to know about the other ones. So don't stress it if you have multiple attempts. Okay, now let's get into the English tips. But before we do that, if this video is helpful to you so far, make sure to show me some love, hit the like button below. Also, I'm interested to hear from you guys if you have any other last-minute strategies that help reduce your anxiety on test day. Like, do you work out? Or just, give me a comment below and it'll help our whole community if you have any suggestions as well. All right, so tip number 1 for the last-minute English tips is a great one. It's an execution strategy. I think it makes the English modules way easier to tackle personally. I would recommend starting at number 27 and working backwards. This redesigns the English module so that you are tackling the quicker, easier questions first, and it warms up your brain so that you are prepared for those cognitive intensive reading passages that are to follow. I would recommend if you start at 27 and work backwards, skip number 15 to 12 because those are the tougher logically completes the text questions, and save those for last. They take the longest and student success rate is the lowest on those. So you want to just make sure you can accrue as many points as possible before you try to read those through. All right, my second English last minute tip is to look for 3 wrong answers instead of 1 right answer on the reading passages. Because guys, College Board's really good at designing trap answers that sound amazing. So you really want to be a detective and go through each answer choice and ask yourself, what is wrong with that? Often it's going to be one little thing that could be wrong with it, like an adverb of degree that says significantly when the passage didn't say it was significant. So be very careful and make sure that you weed out 3 wrong answers, and that'll help prevent you from picking a trap answer. All right, tip number 3 is don't read the notes on a rhetorical synthesis question unless you need it for a tiebreaker. So there will likely be, if I were to guess, 1 question with bullet points at the end of module 2 somewhere where you might need to read the bullet points. And that only happens when you have it narrowed down to 2 or 3 answers and they all seem to satisfy what the student wants. So if that's the case, you have to go to the bullet points to make sure that you can weed out the 2 that are not factually correct, and then you can get it down to the right answer. But most of the time, you don't need those bullet points at all. It's just designed to eat at your time and make you waste time. So just go straight to what the student wants and pick an answer that matches. All right, tip number 4 is to only read the last sentence on a reading passage that is within the range of like number 5 to number 10, okay? The specific types of passages where you can stick to the last sentence only and get the question right are overall structure of text, main idea, main purpose, based on the text, according to the text, and supports or undermines the claim. Why is this? Well, often the claim or the main argument comes in the last sentence. And so that's really all you need to answer these questions, which is going to save you a lot of time which is key so that you have more time to answer a logically completes the text question, or go back to questions you flagged because you weren't really certain on them. Now, the last sentence works most of the time on these, but it doesn't work 100% of the time. So just as my little disclaimer, be ready to be flexible. So if you read the last sentence and there's a pronoun in there that says this idea, and you don't know what they mean when they say this idea, you might need to read back a sentence. Or if the last sentence introduces some crazy term you've never heard, like vicarious cysts, you might need to go back to the first sentence, find the term real quick, and find the definition. So just be ready to be flexible and adaptable with this awesome strategy. All right, my fifth last minute tip for English is to only spend 20 to 30 seconds on each vocab question. Those vocab questions are technically called words and context questions, and they are the very first questions in the modules. So like number 1 to number 4 or 5. If you get stuck and you're not sure which one to pick, please don't deliberate for 3 or 4 minutes over these, guys. You do not have enough time and you can't afford to do that, because then you're robbing yourself of a chance to get more points down the line. So stick to just 20 or 30 seconds. If you have to, put down your best guess. And here's a last minute tip. I often see the right answer being the word you don't know. All right, guys, now let's get into the math tips. So I have 5 last minute math tips. But before we get into that, please comment below. Let me know what your favorite last minute English tip was. And I'm also curious to hear what your goal score is on this test. So let me know what you're trying to land and what your highest score has been on a practice or an official test so far. All right, my first last minute math tip is to make sure you write out all of your work when you're trying to solve algebraically. They give you guys pieces of scrap paper. What I like to do is take the scrap paper and actually fold it into smaller squares for organizational purposes. It's called scrap paper management. So when you get your scrap paper from the proctor before the test starts, fold it in half 3 times. Then when you unfold it, you'll have squares on both sides of the paper. You can put your numbers in the corner of each square, and then you can show your work. That way, if you need to go back, you can easily locate what question you have to go back to see your work. And it's just a great way to keep track of everything. Not to mention, showing your work helps prevent careless mistakes. And I'm talking go back to basics. Go back to 7th and 8th grade algebra, where they taught you when you subtract on one side, you subtract on the other. So the students that I see make careless mistakes and get algebra questions wrong are the students that don't write out -5, divide by 2, divide by 2. And listen, there's no shame in this, guys. Please don't think that this is beneath you because now you are sophisticated 10th or 11th graders. Basics are what get you through and help you get a perfect score. All right, my second math tip for all of you is to bring your calculator. You know, if you have a normal graphing calculator like a TI-84, do simple computations on that, but use DESMOS for everything else. And to be honest with you, I'm so accustomed to DESMOS now, I actually do all of my computations on DESMOS. It's just way easier. But if you like the idea of the handheld calculator still so you can quickly punch in some numbers, you know, just bring that with you. All right, and that brings me into my third tip, which is to use DESMOS on questions that have constants in them. So if you see one constant in the problem, like a, B, or C, then that's a great time to put it into DESMOS because you can use a slider for that constant and move the graph around until you get what you want. So it's just a really neat trick. It's not something that your graphing calculator can do, and that's what makes DESMOS so powerful. All right, my fourth last minute math tip is to leverage the multiple choice answers if you have to. So listen, there might be a math problem where you're having a tough time figuring out how to set up the equations. And when that's the case and the front door method isn't working, use a backdoor method. Start with the answer choices. They give you 4 of them, and plug each answer choice into the question until one of them works. It's a great way to still get the answer, and it's a nice scrappy strategy when you can't figure it out the normal traditional way. All right, and my fifth and final last minute math tip, this one is by far my favorite. Try to bank enough extra time so you can go back and redo every question twice. I'll tell you guys, that is how I got 2 perfect official scores on the digital SAT so far. One last June and then in November. It was only because I was able to go back and redo every single problem twice to check for careless mistakes. Because careless mistakes are bound to happen. They're almost inevitable. And what's funny is a lot of the times we make careless mistakes on the easier problems because we underestimate them or go too fast, or our brain kind of shuts off and we're on autopilot and we're just going through the motions. So I would really encourage you to not just go back to the ones you flagged that you didn't know how to do, but to go all the way back to number 1 and start over and make sure you can catch any careless mistakes, because those are really the biggest reason that students end up, their dreams get crushed, I guess. I don't know how else to word it, but they're score killers. Careless mistakes on math are score killers. All right, guys, that is it for this last minute tips video. I hope you found it helpful. Listen, we have some summer spots open on our schedule right now. Summer prep is a really popular time of year because you don't have school. So if you go into this June test, you're not happy with your performance, we have an amazing team of tutors that can work with you over the summer so that you can redeem yourself on the August or September test. I will link up here to our website. You just fill out the request a consultation form. We would love to meet with you. Anyways, I really wish you guys the best of luck on the test. Comment below if you made it to the end of this video with the word cram. And until next time, guys, happy prepping.